I'll ask you later on. Niles is up next. Win that game 32-11. Gardner has 13 carries, 166 yards, and a 65-yard touchdown. So now Gardner's starting to pick up the pace a little bit, making a name for himself, being that feature back, so to speak. Any thoughts on that game or Niles in general? That was always a tough game, but seemed to come out on top.
Yeah, we've always had great success at Niles. In Niles Stadium, I mean, during our tenure. We recognize Malcolm as being, a really good back in our scrimmages. And, he just continued to get better as the season progressed and really developed into, a really, really good tailback for us.
What was his, you talked about 92. How was he utilized the previous year? You had some really good backs, some really good receivers, tons of skill. Was he just one of those guys just caught in a little bit of a tough spot?
Yeah, I think so. Again, that's a long time ago, and there were so many outstanding seniors on that team that your younger guys kind of get overshadowed, and I think that was the case. I'd bet $1 to a donut that he certainly lettered and got time in.
Yeah.
But he came, and I think I mentioned this a couple series ago, that I remember being the time and place that I got excited about Malcolm Gardner. We were scrimmaging, and it might have been St. V's. I don't quite remember, but we were behind Chaney, and we were scrimmaging there, and he popped a long run, and I thought, here's our back.
Yeah.
I mean, this is coming out of Sylvester Patton's shadow.
Right. Right. Well, he ends up having a great year, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go here. Niles has 31 yards on the ground and 47 yards in the air, so defense is definitely playing pretty well. You said we made some big plays, took advantage of things, and opened up a little bit more. We think we have a good team.
Yeah, and I think to complement that, I think Ronnie Warga was coming into his own as a replacement for Ricky Havrilla.
Yeah.
And for the first time in 2 years, you got a new kid under center, and he's feeling his way around, and he started coming in to his own, and now it's starting to formulate into, okay, we think we could be pretty good.
And so talking about Havrilla, we talked before, losing the leadership that you lost the previous year, and feeling that. And I know Rick wasn't lighting the world on fire with his feet, but athletic, great basketball player, great baseball player, and just a winner. Right. And I think that's probably, and I don't know, but I would assume that's probably his best attribute that he brought to the football team was he was a winner. People knew he was a winner, and they bought in. And he made plays.
And he made plays. Amen. He certainly did. I mean, Rick Havrilla was his, and we've had some really good kids under center over the years, and I think the whole package, he was was outstanding for us. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't think you could sum it up any better than Rick made plays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's big shoes to fill, as you mentioned, for Warga coming in. And I had a chance to play against Warga in baseball, and it seemed like very similar player, heady, smart, tough, playmaker. Right when it counted, he got the job done. So it seemed like maybe cut from the same cloth.
Absolutely. The only difference, he could cause you some problems with his feet.
Yeah. So Howland, you start picking up Howland here for a couple years. Was that wasn't a typical teams? You just get a couple contracts with them?
Yeah. As it turned out, in '91, we needed to beat Holland to, I think it was just availability, know, and when our willingness to always go there.
Yeah, true. Right.
We in 2 years for sure, I know, and then we had they enabled us to make the playoffs in '91.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
And there's some 53 rushes, 346 yards in that game, 5 TDs. John Cook, who would have been a sophomore at that time?
Yes.
Okay, so John Cook, Malcolm Gardner have 2 each. And you're quoted as saying, "Great running night for Malcolm Gardner. Our defense and special teams were making great plays."
Yeah, and I think I said this before, but John was a little too young to get any kind of sugar cube, but
Right.
but he was developing too, and. Malcolm had an outstanding day, and I could remember Holland had a kid that I think he was an outside linebacker, defensive end, that would jump up and pound his fist after every play, and we found him on film, and we just went at him until he threw up a white flag and surrendered.
He wasn't pounding his hands anymore.
No. But I don't think they were seeing what we were bringing to the table. I mean, as far as power and speed.
Would they have been in the TAC at that time? Was that the TAC
I think they
days?
would have been in the TAC. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that, so the next week, Ran, you win that game 20-0, 6-0 at half. Wilson 12-6, and so to your point about what you're talking about, other teams not seeing what you guys were bringing. At this time, the city changed a little bit as years go on. The city's still a really good, competitive, tough league. You have a ton of talent in there. You're winning the Ran game 6-0 at half. You end up beating Wilson 12-6. I mean, it's still a good league. It's very competitive.
No question about it. I mean, I'd really have to search to think of some of the names, but you're on the money when you say, I mean, Ran especially, they had some really outstanding athletes, and John did a good job coaching them. Same with Wilson. Wilson had a running back and a quarterback. And the whole league, you're right, was very formidable.
Yeah. And you always had guys even later on when different schools had closed, but you always had guys that you could 2 or 3 guys that you could look on there and say, okay, those 2 or 3 guys would start on any team in our league. We could, it was tough. So you beat Rand 20-0. It's 6-0 at half. Gardner and Warga score. Warga gets a pick. Seems like he's playing some good defense. There was a couple other games where he has some picks, and you mention Steve Klingscale, Joe Davila, Keith Swanson as some of the defensive players to mention in that article.
Yeah, those were three outstanding players for us. I mean, Steve, Keith, and Joe. Those guys, were the hub of our defense. I mean, and performed well offensively for us also. They were outstanding.
Last game of the year, you beat Wilson 12-6. A couple of things in here. It was 6-6 at halftime. Warga to Conti for the tie, and then Warga to Conti for the second half TD, which seals the deal. So that was a good connection on that.
Yeah, and Dom was our captain, and Conti, and he missed a good part of that season because during the strike he got a deep thigh bruise, and he was hobbled. I mean, it hung with him, and getting him back was really a shot in the arm for us, and he was another outstanding player for us.
One thing to note, and I don't know if it was in the news article or if it was just in the some of the yearbook stuff from West Side Saga. The first ever team to win 4 straight out city titles since 1927. Now, not co. 4 consecutive straight city titles. So not sharing the title, not coaching.
Yeah, since the beginning of the league.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was something that we were aware of.
Okay.
And we were shooting for. I mean, and I'll be honest. Looking back, maybe we went into the Wilson game tight because that was on the line. But that I don't want to take anything away from Wilson. They're a good football team. I remember, like I said, I think the Fitzgerald kid played then, and they had a pretty good quarterback too. That was our replacement to the playoffs, because we knew, finishing 6-2, that we wouldn't have enough points to get in.
And one game on here that we didn't talk about because it wasn't in the book, but then through a picture, Malcolm sent Orville. So you had Orville like week 7 or 8, somewhere in there. Any thoughts? Orville years ago, probably in the 80s, 70s, 80s, a perennial state power, very and good even then, but maybe not winning state titles at that time. But I think Jared Zwick went there.
And we went there.
Maybe they were winning state titles.
We expected, and we got, a major battle. It was really close, and we ran. It was tied, or we were down 1 or 2 or something, and midfield, and ran Florida for the first down, but Malcolm popped it, and took
touchdown.
it, like 60 yards.
Jeez, oh man.
And that was the turning point of the game. I mean, and
I remember talking about this. You were always good for having a timely fake punt, right? Where and maybe not necessarily popping it for a touchdown, but that was a threat. Like I think guys probably knew that coached against you. This is something you need to be aware of, but somewhere or another you'd always sneak it in and it'd be executed. And I mean, it was
and if nothing else, I think it helps your punt protection, because people are wary of the
Right.
So
yeah, for sure.
yeah, we through the entire tenure, I don't know how many punts we had blocked. If
Yeah, there might have been one. If anything, maybe you get a
Yeah.
bad snap here or there. But we were talking about one game with Keelan or Anthony where it was a punt block, but very rarely. And I think the conversion on the fake punts were usually pretty high, the percentages. That's just something I thought was intriguing. All City this year, Gardner on offense. Gardner, Conti, Ferguson, and Farina. On defense, Don Crouch, Joe Davila, Dan.
I know it was
Okay.
listed as Don in
Yeah.
the book.
Okay. Joe Davila, Keith Swanson, and Ron Warga.
And it couldn't be any more on the money because those were the guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those were the guys.
Second team was Klink, Junior, and then Cook as a sophomore.
Yeah, and the nice thing about winning the league and and having some success is I could go into those all city meetings and just say, hey, this is who I want. And
Yeah.
These are non-negotiable. I mean, this
Right.
is who we're going to have, but in fairness to the other coaches, they all had their group of guys, and because we won more, we got more, but those kids, every one of those kids, there was no debate or anything or haggling. Those were legit all league players.
So talking about these guys and talking about how kind of the end of the year plays out, and I don't know what Fitch went that year. I don't know what their record was, but I know sometimes there were some just phenomenal Fitch teams, and they were just, war horses. But looking at how you're playing, looking how maybe not young but inexperienced that team was because of the previous year's team. Do you think the game might have been a little bit different if you caught Fitch later in the year? And maybe not win, but I mean just maybe being a little bit more prepared to play because they're more mature.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but possibly. Like I said, there's a lot involved when you're fielding a relatively new team. Feeling good about it, feeling good about the guys that you're using to replace the great players that just graduated. But with the strike looming, I mean, there's just a lot of things that play into your head.
Sure. One thing I wanted to talk to you about was the Frank Sikowicz Trophy, right? The award. And can you talk a little bit about that, because that came up in the West Side saga here. What was that award?
That was for the best back, offensive back in the city series.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if I want to say the De Niro Award, which was sponsored by the family,
Okay.
came before. I'm sure it came before.
Okay.
I'm sure it came before, and someone proposed, and maybe it was me. I don't know, but maybe it was whoever the AD was then. I want to say that would have been Tullio then.
Okay.
But and that's probably more fair to say that it was probably the city athletic director that proposed that, and everybody was on board with it. You got a Heisman Trophy winner, and he should it should be, what else is more fitting than that?
Sure.
To have an award in his honor. And it was voted on like an all-city position.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so Gardner wins it this year.
Yeah. But not mentioning the De Niro Award, because I'm sure we would have had the De Niro Award when Farina would. It's surprised. So what I'm saying is maybe the De Niro Award came afterwards.
I gotcha. When did was that the Sinkovich Award? Was that awarded all the way up until the end of the City Series? Do you remember? Was it still being awarded towards the end of your career?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, 6-2, good year, but a little disappointment because of circumstances. Don't make the playoffs for the first time in 2 years. Seems like you have a number of guys coming back. What are your thoughts wrapping up the season? Hoping for a 3-year teaching contract.
Yeah. We're at this point, like I said, we know we're not getting in. We had our playoff game with Wilson, the last game of the year, and we're starting to think about, we got a quarterback coming back, we got a back coming back, you got some linemen coming back, and we're looking forward to the off season and getting ready for '94.
Okay, very good.